Reading is from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. This passage can be found in your Pew Bible on page 757. With what shall I come before the Lord, and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Our New Testament reading today comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 34 through 40. Page 804 of your Pew Bible, or just listen as I read God's Word. According to St. Matthew, you'll see that this reading is a familiar one, and one that has been echoed in the call and prayer and hymns up till now, following the Great Commandment. Listen as I read from the Gospel of St. Matthew. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this greatest commandment that if we could all live by, the world would be such a better place. To love our neighbor as ourselves and to love you with all that we have. And so we ask now that you would be with these young people as they share their stories. May we have a sense of your presence with us, and that we would all be inspired by their service into loving our neighbor wherever we may be. May now the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts together be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, who's going to be first? Come, the young people that are going to share in this message time. Come, and once you all come now, and then you can step up one at a time.
Good morning. I'm Graham Blair. From my perspective, there were many pros and cons to living in McDowell County. It was a very different experience from living here, and a more practical one. Despite the minimal amenities, the people were very hospitable and eager to help their visitors. The milk was warm every morning in the dry cereal, a mouse was spotted in the kitchen, and about 40 people slept in each room. But that wasn't the point. We had running water and were living in better conditions than many of the inhabitants of McDowell County. I personally wouldn't have wanted to be living in a luxurious hotel on my trip where I helped the less fortunate. Strict curfews, meal times, and wake-up calls kept us alert, humbled, and ready to work. We lived in an abandoned school, and it was rather sad walking around looking into former classrooms that were now empty or filled with beds. They had a small field in the back, and the basketball court was very run down. The school overlooked a train track on which I saw a train pass only one time out of the several days that we were there. Once when we tried to open a door, it just fell straight down. This shows either the time that the school was abandoned for or the amount of money that the school lacked. We had a reflection and worship every day in the gym, all of us just sitting down on the floor. Experience Mission made us recognize what others were going through, become more eager to improve the lives of others, and inspired us to make the best of the whole trip.
Thank you so much. As you can see, each of the young people has an assignment, and Graham's was to share with you the living conditions that we lived under in West Virginia. Who's going to go next? Lindsay, why don't you tell us what you're going to share about?
I'm going to share about the work sites and relationships. Good morning.
Morning.
Although I'm going to be talking about various work sites, the relationships we made and the conversations we had with the homeowners were valuable life lessons. While we were in West Virginia, we met so many people, from other mission teams to people who had gone to the school we were staying in, to the people that we helped through the jobs we completed. While other team members worked on other sites, like Miss Agnes's floor and putting siding on a person's house, I, alongside the other part of the team, worked on a roof and painted a couple's trailer. On the first day, a part of our mission team went to a house where we had to fix a roof that was suffering from water damage. Despite other problems with poison sumac creeping up over the side of the house and a person from another mission team falling through a portion of the roof, there was also another problem. The owners of the house had already attempted to try and fix the roof by putting tar under the aluminum shingles and on all of the screws, making it very difficult to try and take off the roof, let alone fix the wood underneath. With all the tar stuck around the screws, people used screwdrivers to scrape the tar so that someone else with a power drill could come and unscrew the aluminum shingles. Since only a certain number of people could be on the roof at any given time, I stayed on ground level with some of my other team members. At first, we had no idea how to help the people on the roof, but then we saw two little girls peeking out from a window. We waved hello and asked if they could come outside and show us their adorable orange kitten. Before they came outside, a person from the roof asked if I could go and ask the homeowner for a pen to mark the wood they need to cut. I went up to the door and the two girls opened the door with the brightest smiles on their faces. I asked for the pen and told them they could play outside with us if they wanted to. They brought out a softball and we started to play catch with them. Kaylee was the name of the older sister, and she said she played softball and was an avid swimmer. She was extremely talkative and always had something to say. Brooke, on the other hand, was very quiet. But don't let that fool you. She really had an arm on her, and she had a crazy fastball. They loved playing with us and asking us questions about New York. Later in that day, Beverly left the roof and helped the girls set up their own version of a slip and slide, a blue tarp and a hose. By far the best quote of the day was when Beverly had been holding the hose for the girls to play, and Kaylee said, "You're even better than a water park." With so much enthusiasm, it made us all crack up. A few nights after we met Kaylee and Brooke, we went to a local bonfire. When we arrived, Kaylee and Brooke surprised us and gave us the most beautiful cards. These cards were given to the people who they met at their house, and it showed me how beautiful a child's innocence could be. They had no idea why we were fixing their roof, but all that mattered was that these people helped them and they felt like they needed to give back even though they didn't have to. They showed me that no matter what situation you are in, you can always make it better by making the best of your situation and by always having a smile on your face. Over the next 3 days, a part of our team worked on painting a trailer that had just had new siding put up. Before we even got to the trailer, we had to go up the side of a mountain. It was a one-lane road that was paved on and off and had no side rails. And to top it off, almost everything was a blind corner. The first day, when Elizabeth was driving up the mountain, she would honk cautiously around every turn. Not to mention, she was driving as slow as molasses. It was around a 20-minute drive up to Ferret Lane, depending on whether it was Sarah or Elizabeth driving, or the couple lived. When we first met the couple, they by far had the heaviest accents that I had ever heard. The first day that we were up at the trailer, they didn't tell us much, but instead insisted on helping us paint. The second day, it was raining on and off, so we didn't get to completely finish the trailer, but we finished a majority of it. During that second day, the couple opened up to us and told us about their 3 daughters and where they lived. The older man also told us that he was born right behind the trailer 65 years ago. They sat behind Alexa and I in the front yard as we were painting the trim and told us so many stories about their wonderful daughters. They were so thankful for our help that it just made all of our work even more worth it. The most beautiful part about this couple was that all we were doing was painting their trailer. Yet they were so caring and appreciative, you would have thought we had built their trailer. It proved to me that even though it might seem like we were doing simple jobs, in the end, all that mattered was that we made the homeowners happy. All of the people we met on this trip were some of the nicest and most appreciative that I have ever met, and this trip and its jobs will always stay in my heart.
Thanks so much, Lindsay, sharing about the work site. Why don't we have Juliet? Why don't you come? And Juliet is going to share with us a little bit about the road trip. Yeah, look out.
Good morning. I'm Juliet Krause. Well, what a road trip. 14 hours of togetherness. There's a lot to take in. The transition from what we left behind to the grounds of West Virginia was so interesting to see, and I really got a good glimpse of what life was like in West Virginia. We saw mountains of coal laying next to the roads, which is something I've never seen before, and dogs chained up to trees outside of every house, which wasn't either, and that really got to me. Above all, what struck me the most was how we never seemed to pass a house that wasn't in rough shape. It made me realize that these people probably don't consider their homes safe and comfortable. That's when I realized how the mission trip could really make a huge difference in people's lives. Along the road, we stopped a few times for prayer, which was a nice way to take in everything we were seeing. We sang songs in the vans as well, practicing for what we had to teach the children later on. Also, we got in a lot of sleep, which we all know the teenagers really needed. For me, I couldn't stand the ride back. The thought of leaving behind all my hard work and new friendships was so depressing. I thought it was going to be so hard to get used to my privileged life at home, and it was. Most of all, I was most upset to have to leave behind all the people and houses that were still in need of our help, but we can only do so much. However, the ride back gave me a sense of accomplishment because I knew that I made an impact in more than 5 people's lives. 5 isn't much, but to those 5 people, our work probably meant the world. Yes, we made an impact in their lives, but they made one in mine. I will always treasure this mission trip and never forget the people of West Virginia.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And Bailey, last but not least, share with us some of the relationships we made and the kids we met in Kids Club. And Akeen as well? Okay. Not last.
Good morning. Okay, I think the majority of us can agree that I can't read. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, hang on. This needs to stay. Is there like something that I can... Okay. I think the majority of us can agree that we take what we have for granted. Am I wrong? When I say this, I'm mainly centralizing it around the little things we have in our lives, such as clean water straight from the faucet, cell phones, a safe environment outdoors for children to play in, a secure and invulnerable home to live in, and most importantly, a loving, nurturing, and wholehearted family. As people of Westchester, we really aren't aware of what we have or what we are privileged and blessed with until we see how the other half lives. That's when you realize how lucky you really are. The people that our team worked with in West Virginia were, in all honesty, some of the most genuine and appreciative people I've ever had the opportunity to come across in my entire life. We worked with multiple families, elderly couples, young couples, and everything in between. The team met this lovely woman named Agnes, who was maybe, give or take, in her mid-70s. She lived in a small neighborhood on top of a mountain and essentially took care of every man and woman who needed to be nurtured and loved. Her home was small, creaky, and slowly but surely falling apart. Her kitchen had been damaged due to a flood years ago, and it never got fixed. So that's where our team stepped in, and we gave it our best shot. It was a success. After a long day of bonding with her and the neighbors and repairing her floor, we said our goodbyes and departed. She was without a doubt the most friendly and inspirational woman I've ever met, and I will never forget her. I still wonder to this day how she's doing. It's like she became a part of my family, or I became a part of hers. We also get the chance to meet and play with a family of 4. The 2 children were named Kaylee and Brooke, who Lindsay was talking about before. And I'll never forget the moment of sorrow and sadness that swept over me as we stepped foot onto their property. It was by far the most run-down house I had visited yet. Their roof was caved in, there was mold everywhere you turned, and their dog was chained to a tree and slept in a box. The front yard hadn't been tended to in years, and their play set, which we fixed on the spot, was broken. They told us everything there was to know about their daily life and how their family functioned. Listening to their story absolutely broke my heart. These poor girls were being raised by an unstable family whose father was in and out of the house, always driving away to wherever was more important than being with his struggling family. The mother, on the other hand, did not look at all healthy. She was short, very skinny, and had short brown hair that looked like she cut it herself, and she had maybe 5 or 4 teeth missing. She was maybe 35. Basically, this family was most certainly in need of much help, and we gave it to them. The feeling you get after repairing someone's damaged roof, or replacing someone's moldy floor, or even fixing something as little as a swing set, is a feeling you get like no other. You leave the area knowing that you have just bettered the lives of these wonderful people for years to come. I'm so honored and blessed to have been able to take this trip to McDowell County this summer. It was, in all honesty, the highlight of my summer, and I can't wait till PCMK takes their next mission trip. I'll be looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bailey. And now, last but not least, Keen, sharing about the Kids Club.
Good morning. While we were there, we did much more than build houses, put siding on a house, and sing to senior citizens. My favorite moment was every day when I would go to Kids Club. There was nothing better than having there was nothing better than coming back to see the kids after a long, hard day of work. You may feel tired, but the minute you saw the smiles on the kids' faces, you couldn't help but feel energetic. The kid I looked forward to seeing the most was Nazir, who Graham had told me about the previous day. He was so energetic, and he was a little bit violent, but he meant well. So every day we would sing to the kids, we would do crafts, and we would play with them. And they even came back to our mission base, and we would play with them there. I got to meet a kid named Eric, and we had a nice game of basketball a couple of times. So there were many funny moments during Kids Club, when Nazir made fun of Jonathan's mustache, when Bruce would intentionally throw Dylan's frisbee into the creek, causing Dylan to go into the creek every time. And then when Tiara peed on Bailey while she was sleeping. The one thing I took away from Kids Club was that these kids did not come from an economically stable environment, but every day they had a smile on their faces, and it didn't matter what was going on at home. As long as they had someone to play with every day, they were fine. It was a constant reminder to me that I should learn to appreciate the little things and take advantage of every little thing. And that's it.
We had not one sermon today, but 5. And I hope you've been inspired 5 times more than usual with these wonderful messages from our young people. I'm so proud of them. I was proud to be with them. Our leadership team of Elizabeth, my wife, and Sarah Lucas, our youth leader, was a great team. We complemented each other well, and we had a great time leading them, but they were easy to lead. These are mature young people. We did not have to worry about keeping track of them like I have on some of the many other mission trips I've taken with high schoolers. This was a terrific experience, and we want to say thank you. That's a lot of what today is about, is saying thank you to all of you for your support for these young people on this trip. You can see it's been a life-changing experience for them as they put into practice the great commandment to love neighbor as self. Your support through the Mission Fund gave some a donation to this project, as did each family involved, of the families of each of these young people. You sponsored a high schooler to come and work in your home and paid for them to do that, and that supported the trip. And then they wrote to their aunts and uncles and grandparents and others to raise support, we called it, through friends and family. So the great group effort to raise the funds to go together and then to come back. And it's important that we do this, to tell you about it, because sociologists who have studied these mission trips in young people as to whether they make a difference or not say they do if a couple things happen. The experience is one thing, but they need to prepare ahead of time, process it during the trip, which we did every night, and then talk about it afterwards. So they reflect back on the experience. So that's what's happening today as well, to deepen the experience for them and for all of us. So thank you, PCMK mission team, and thank you, PCMK family, for sending us on this life-changing experience.